You're watching Mirror 7 News. Stay informed, stay ahead for more news.
The U.S. Supreme Court has made headlines again after issuing an emergency order blocking the full restoration of Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, payments. This decision, which immediately affects millions of low-income Americans, has sparked intense debate across the nation. What makes the story even more significant is the response from Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who stood out by voicing concern over the impact this ruling could have on struggling families. Now, for a bit of background, SNAP, often known as food stamps, provides monthly benefits to help low-income households purchase groceries. The dispute arose after a lower court had allowed full payments to resume, following arguments that recent policy changes unfairly reduced the amount of aid some recipients received. But the Supreme Court's latest intervention effectively pauses those payments, pending further review. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who has become known for her thoughtful and measured opinions, reportedly questioned whether the decision to halt the payments was justified, given the direct impact on vulnerable families relying on that aid for basic sustenance. Her stance reflects a concern not just for legal procedure, but for the real-world consequences that judicial actions can trigger. The emergency order was issued without full briefing or oral arguments, which often happens in urgent or time-sensitive cases. However, critics argue that this particular issue, dealing with food assistance for millions, deserved more thorough consideration. Many advocacy groups have warned that the freeze could worsen food insecurity, especially as inflation continues to affect grocery prices nationwide. Supporters of the bloc, however, claim the federal government's changes to the program may have been implemented too quickly or without proper authorization, and that a pause was necessary to ensure fairness and compliance with existing law. It's a classic example of how legal interpretation and human impact often collide in cases before the Supreme Court. Justice Jackson's subtle but significant dissent has drawn praise from those who see her as a voice for empathy within the court's increasingly conservative landscape. Since joining the bench, she has repeatedly highlighted how legal decisions ripple through everyday lives, particularly for marginalized or economically struggling Americans. As this case continues to unfold, the larger debate over how much influence the Supreme Court should have in determining economic aid policy remains unsettled. But one thing is clear. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's remarks remind us that behind every case number, there are real people trying to put food on their tables. Stay subscribed for more videos.